Good afternoon. My name is Trey Hutt. I'm with Hutt Insurance Agency, and welcome to our Facebook Live event, Eating the Elephant. It's part 3 of our series, and we're calling it Eating the Elephant now because, frankly, this is an elephant we're having to eat, and our objective here is to break all this into bite-sized pieces so that we can all handle it. We're going to try to do this twice a week, every Sunday at 4 o'clock, probably be a little bit longer format, and then during the week, so on a Wednesday or Thursday evening, we'll try to do something else that probably will be a little shorter and a little more topical. Today we're going to be discussing a couple of different topics. We're going to talk about claims delays. Everybody's getting a little impatient now, I think. We're 3 weeks out from the storm. We'll talk a little bit about how to handle your adjuster and what you should do with initial estimates for your claim that you get from the insurance company, and what to think of them. Frankly, I think we're seeing a lot of stress because people are getting numbers that maybe they're a little concerned about. And we're going to try to address that today and maybe make everyone feel a little bit better. First of all, let's talk a little bit about claim delays. We're 3 weeks out, as I said, from the storm, and we have to remember this is a marathon and not a sprint. I know everyone's heard that, but it's really true. We're starting to see some difficulty because some adjusters are not communicating quite like they probably should. But one of the things that's important to remember is just because you haven't talked to your adjuster today doesn't mean they're not working on your behalf. And I can assure you, based on what we're seeing, there's an awful lot of information and a lot of things that are being done kind of behind the scenes. Things do take a little bit of time, and I know that's frustrating to hear. But one thing you can do is to be proactive. Frankly, there's no reason whatsoever you couldn't be calling and talking with your adjuster. And I think it's time for all of us to play a little bit of offense. Sitting back and just waiting for things to happen probably is not the most effective strategy right now. What I would suggest to people is if you need an answer on something, then the first thing you should do is to call your desk adjuster. We talked about desk adjusters in the last part of our series, and that's the person you're going to work with long term. If you don't get responsiveness from your desk adjuster, if they don't call you back, say within 24 to 48 hours, then you need to involve your local agent. You need to call somebody or go by and see them. And of course, the advantage of having a local agent instead of calling an 800 number is you can get to them face to face and look across the desk at them eye to eye. And that has a lot of value right now. Human capital is very, very important, and let's spend it. Okay. Again, you need to advocate for yourself. No one else other than your agent necessarily is going to push your position. So you have to make sure that you're advocating for yourself. And I would suggest that maybe a way to do this is to maybe be a little more assertive than you might think. We've heard some folks say, oh, well, I don't want to be a bother and I don't want to bug people that are already busy. But everyone in this industry, the insurance industry, frankly, I have to be honest with you, this is our job. This is what you hired us to do. This is what you've been paying these premiums for all these years. So it's time for people to be responsive. What I would suggest about being more assertive and advocating for yourself is when you talk to an adjuster, we have heard that folks are getting frustrated because they're having to leave a lot of messages. We're not able to speak to them directly, and I know that a human voice on the other end of the phone sometimes can be very calming, and when you get a message, a voicemail system over and over and over again, it can be very frustrating. So my suggestion to solve that particular problem is to simply set some expectations for your adjuster. If you call them, say, on a Monday and you need a particular item, you want a copy of a piece of paper, you need a tarp on your roof, whatever the expectation is, what I would suggest you do is leave them a voicemail and say, look, this is Trey. I would like a copy of my field adjuster's report. They were out here a week ago. If I don't have a copy of your field adjuster's report by Wednesday afternoon, then I'm going to proceed as follows. I'm going to get an engineer, or I'm going to have someone else begin banging nails on the roof, something such as that. So you sort of put the ball back in their court, and if they don't respond, it's not as though you haven't told them what you're going to do, and it will put them in a much more difficult position if they try to deny something that you've done later. I don't think you need to be unreasonable. I don't think you need to call them 5 or 6 or 7 times a day. I don't think that's going to get you the best results right now. But I think once a day, when things are beginning to get itchy and you're beginning to get nervous, that's probably not an unreasonable thing to do. But again, I think be as specific as you can with your adjuster and set some expectations and be proactive of things you're going to do if they don't respond to you, and give them a default position that they're going to have to work from. I think that's your idea. But don't wait. If you feel like you're getting delays, whether they're reasonable or not, it's no reason for you to stop the claims process. What we have seen is people see their adjuster And then when they haven't heard from their desk adjuster in several days, they've stopped. They haven't done anything. Their wheels are not in motion. They're in neutral. And I don't think that's a good move, because if you think about it, even if you didn't have insurance at all, you still would have to get something done about all of the things, all of the damage to your house, or anything such as that. So don't wait. That's almost never a good strategy. I do want to talk also a little bit about the estimates that we're seeing from adjusters early on. I'm seeing some outright panic from clients, mostly not ours. Mostly they're from other clients that we're just trying to help outside of office hours at our help desk. But it's very, very common at this point to see an estimate that you think is extremely low. I have an example of one of our clients that they probably have a couple $100,000 worth of damage, very severe damage. And the initial estimate that they got was very, very low. It was less than $10,000 after the deductible. And the client, of course, got a little nervous about that, understandably so. What I'm here to tell you is those early estimates are completely meaningless. I know that seems a little bit strange to hear from an insurance person, but those are simply triage numbers, and they often don't bear any, they have very little or no bearing sometimes on the actual loss that you've sustained. And sometimes the adjusters that are giving us these numbers don't even have complete policy information. So if you get a number that really frightens you, don't panic. First thing you can do, of course, again, is call your desk adjuster and talk to them. If you're still nervous after that call your agent. Your next step, if you don't get satisfaction there, is to call us. We can certainly help you walk through it. But what we're seeing is that panic is pushing people into the arms of some unscrupulous public adjusters or attorneys. And that's becoming a problem, because that's a time when you panic that you're the most easily preyed upon. I'm not saying that some attorneys and public adjusters aren't doing a good job. They very well may be, but we've seen some very unscrupulous behavior. And again, panic is rarely the time to make a solid decision. So what I would like to stress to you is your insurance company has a legal obligation under their policy to pay the cost, generally speaking, of your repairs. They need to put you back in the position that you were in before the claim. Certainly there are policies that have exceptions to this, but if you have a policy that has replacement cost coverage, which most people do, then your insurance company has a legal obligation to you that they are going to fulfill one way or another. They're just going to have to. They can either do that now, which is what we're mostly seeing, or they can do it later when they're forced to by either the insurance department or by an attorney. What I would suggest to you is, if you stay with it right now and don't panic, what you can do is take control of the claims process. What we're seeing is, if we get an estimate, it's never going to match exactly with the cost to rebuild a structure or a home. So if, let's say, for example, you get an estimate from an adjuster that says $50,000, and you get a contractor on site and he says, well, that's going to cost $125,000. The way to go about this is to simply put your contractor in touch with your desk adjuster and let the two of them work it out. And that way you don't have to have a dog in the fight immediately, and you can get on to some other things like worrying about getting lists of your contents together, making sure your family is safe, and you have a nice place to stay while your house is being repaired. So the focus needs to be on your contractor's estimate, the estimate it's going to take for someone to actually bang nails and get that house back to where it needs to be, not on the initial estimate you might get from an insurance company. Please don't focus on that number, especially if it's something that you feel is much lower than you need. We're always going to come through at the end of the day, and you are going to get what is due you. Your insurance company has legal obligations that they must fulfill. So again, early numbers, it can be a little frustrating, and I will grant you, as an insurance person, that part of the process I find very frustrating myself, because it sends clients again into panic that is unnecessary. Realize, unfortunately, that's just part of what we're doing here, but there's an easy way to unwind it. Again, take control of your claims process. The biggest thing is, don't panic. Every time something happens, this is unfamiliar territory for a lot of people, and you have an awful lot on the line. And so there is a tendency to panic when you don't get good communications. But what I will tell you is, if you will advocate for yourself, and if you will take control of the claims process with your contractor, you will be in much better shape. Having said that, the one thing I'd like to repeat is, with your contractor, do not sign an assignment of benefits form. Do not lose control of your process to a contractor. You don't want to give this control of this process to the insurance company, so why give it to a contractor? Solid contractors that are reputable do not require you to sign an assignment of benefits. So bear in mind that that's something that you need to be careful of. And I would say initially, if later you need to contact a public adjuster or an attorney, that's a decision that you need to make. But what I would suggest is there's an awful lot of options that don't cost you anything that you can go through now. And if later on you decide you want to go through that process with a PA or an attorney, you still have that option later. The difficulty is if you go with that option now, you can't unwind it. So what I would say is do what you can to advocate for yourself. Use your desk adjuster, use your local agent, and use us where we're available to help advocate for you. And then at that point, if things still aren't working your way, then you can go with someone else. We also have the Department of Insurance that's been very active in town. They've done an excellent job of helping people with claims and also helping to deal with unscrupulous contractors. So what I would say is, again, take control of your claim. Let's eat this elephant one bite at a time. Take care. We'll see you midweek.